Production funding for Behind the Headlines is made possible in part by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Memphis Mayor Jim Strickland tonight on Behind the Headlines. I'm Eric Barnes with the Daily Memphian. Thanks for joining us. I am joined tonight by Jim Strickland, Memphis Mayor. Thanks for being here again.
Thanks for having me.
Along with Bill Dries, reporter with the Daily Memphian. The first question is an odd one, but are you a resident of Memphis? And were you a resident of Memphis the first time and second time you were elected for 5 years at least?
I've been a resident continually since August of 1977.
Okay.
But it is interesting. 4 years ago, not all my opponents were residents, and we knew that, and we knew it wasn't a factor, so we just didn't push it.
So who were not resident? There was questions around former Mayor Harrington.
The only home he owned was in Collierville.
Yeah. So more seriously, though, and it's a very serious issue, and you're nice to put up with my joke, but it's a segue into a very serious issue that I think most viewers will be familiar with, and Bill will correct me where I get this wrong, but right now in Chancery Court, there's a case. People have challenged the residency of two of the leading candidates, Floyd Bonner, the sheriff, and Van Turner, and there are some questions around, again, Willie Harrington, former Mayor Harrington, and his residency. That issues in court, and just this week, Jennifer Sink, the chief legal officer or city attorney, came out and said that a candidate for mayor must in fact have lived in the city for 5 years. The city's position on this was unclear. The judge has been trying to subpoena you to be a part of this case. Do you agree with Jennifer Sink's position?
I don't know. I've not read her. I've not read in her opinion, or really Robert Meyer's opinion. Yes. So I've not read Robert's opinion. I've glanced at it. I've not read Alan Wade's opinion. I've glanced at it. I don't think my opinion really matters. I always knew it would end up a judge is going to have to decide. In fact, probably a Court of Appeals or Supreme Court judge.
You would think, Tennessee, that it would go.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I mean, you are a lawyer. I mean, you're the mayor. You were a city council person. You've been in politics for a long time. I mean, I guess I could understand you not giving us your opinion publicly, but I'm surprised you haven't read the opinions and formed an opinion both as in your position and given that you're a lawyer.
Well, I've got a lot of things to do. So, I mean, in the list of things to do, understanding the legal intricacies of residency, I do know it's not clear cut because you have really good lawyers who disagree. Yeah. So, if it's not clear cut with lawyers who disagree, it's going to take a really deep dive, and I just haven't spent the time to do it.
And let's go to Bill. Last one. Will you? I mean, Jennifer Sink works for you, chief legal officer. Will you direct her in terms of? It sounds like she will get wrapped up to some degree in this case potentially. I mean, will you be in conversation with her about how she handles this going forward?
I mean, she'll update me, but I'm certainly not directing.
I mean, is that a formal recusal of you just want to stay out of it, or is it?
No, I don't dictate the how legal. I mean, even though I'm a lawyer, I don't dictate how contracts are drafted or how litigation proceeds. She's a really good lawyer, and she's got really good lawyers working for her, and I let them do their job.
All right, and we go to Bill.
So, why didn't you challenge Mayor Harrington's residency 4 years ago?
Frankly, we just didn't think he was going to win, and it was drawing more attention to a fact that it was kind of a side issue, and I thought we were going to win anyway, and I just wanted to get out there and get as many votes as I could.
Okay, and you did. You won with a majority. I
think 72%.
Right, 72%. I think more like 61%, maybe. 61. I don't.
Okay, all right. No, you're probably right. Was it 62 to like 25?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so.
You're right. You're right. I'm wrong.
Okay.
Are you going to endorse? Let's stay with the mayor's race, and then we'll move on to things. Are you going to endorse in this mayor's race?
I don't have any plans now, but who knows?
You could. Do you have now? I mean, have you been watching? Have you watched debates and forums?
I've not watched any debates. I've read stories about the debates.
Okay. But
not all of them, but some of them.
Is it Why not endorse? Why not?
I don't know. First of all, I don't know if anybody wants my endorsement.
Yeah.
And I don't know how the race is going to shake out, and we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. We'll switch gears to.
First, I also
yeah.
don't think endorsements in mayor's races mean that much.
Yeah.
You know, I know you have to write an obligatory story about it, but I don't think it moves voters. Endorsements for judges that are lower on the ballots where people don't know who the people running, those mean more. But by October, people are going to know the 4 or 5 top candidates for mayor, and an endorsement doesn't move them as much because they've already made an informed decision themselves.
Let's switch to, obviously crime has been on everyone's minds. It's been a big topic for you. It's been a big issue for you since you were first elected the first time. As you know, violent crime jumped through COVID and jumped both in Memphis and nationally. It's been more of a topic, Tyree Nichols, all that. So one is you talk a lot about the revolving door, the 201 Poplar, the jail, the criminal justice system, that after, and what I would define, and you can correct me, the revolving door is that after criminals are arrested, they're out on the street too quickly because of too low a bail, because of all kinds of problems in the system. We have a new DA, and we have a new juvenile court judge, 100 and 150 days into their jobs. Let's start with DA Mulroy. Has he at all had an impact on what you describe as the revolving door?
I don't fully know because it's the system, and I'm not blaming him, but the entire system is not transparent at all. So I don't know. I do know that last year, in 2022, murders were down about 16%, aggravated assaults were down 7% or so. This year, murders are up over 30%, and aggravated assaults are up. I don't know the percent. And I do know that from talking to police officers, from veteran prosecutors, to our gang interveners, that word is out on the street that there are little to no consequences to illegal acts.
Or at least that's the perception among criminals, or the reality among criminals.
That's definitely what they're thinking. And give you an example is last year, Memphis police arrested over 1,600 people for car break-ins and car thefts. In the first 3 months of this year, over 400. So over 2,000 people have been arrested for breaking into cars and stealing cars, which is a real prevalent problem. Y'all just wrote a story about it this morning. Yeah. There are no consequences to those 2,000 people, adults or children, being arrested. It is truly a revolving door. Low bails, probations when they're convicted, and you know, it's a stop at, if you're an adult, it's a stop at the jail. You get a meal and arrest, and you're right back out. Juveniles don't even go see juvenile court. It is a real significant problem, and the judicial system needs to be open and transparent. What is their plan on that?
Let me get Bill in here.
Mayor, the Memphis City Council just gave final approval to the last of their reform measures that were involving what are known as pretextual traffic stops for minor equipment issues by police. And the ordinance asks and requests that Memphis police not make those traffic stops. Have you signed that ordinance, and what are your views on the effectiveness of that?
I have not signed it, and we're meeting about it. We meaning city attorney and MPD. We have another meeting coming up relatively soon, this week or next week, to kind of hopefully finalize our viewpoint. One of the challenges is when police officers are sworn in, they are sworn to uphold the laws of the United States, the laws of Tennessee, and the laws and ordinances of the city of Memphis. I've forgotten the exact wording, but that's pretty much it. Well, that ordinance actually says don't enforce these as primary purposes to stop.
Right.
State law, we think, says something opposite. So it puts a police officer in a real awkward position where they're sworn to uphold the law. So we're working through that.
Is it is it possible there could be some amendments suggested, or is it possible that you would veto that?
I guess anything is possible. So I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, all right. And the,
But you know, a veto really doesn't mean much because a simple majority, as you know, a simple majority can overrule veto.
nevertheless, Chief Davis was involved in some of the rewriting of the ordinance, some of the wording on it to make exceptions for what are known legally as exigent circumstances on it.
That was the unmarked car.
Right.
Which is a separate ordinance, basically, she said that's the way our policy is now while she's the police chief, and meaning you can't use an unmarked car routinely for traffic stops. That, you know, there might be an unusual circumstance here or there that you can use one, and I think she agreed to that.
Were there any of the other ordinances that the council passed that have similar questions or are under similar review?
Well, we're looking at them all, but a couple of them we don't have to dig I mean, like one of them, I think, said almost the council could act as a CLERB board and do investigations themselves. You know, that's
Civilian
civilian
review
law
board.
enforcement review board.
Right, and have access to things like body camera footage could request it, because some council members are already talking about, in light of that ordinance passing, getting the body cam footage for an incident that happened in the past week.
Oh, I didn't know that, you know, I think that's within their purview. So we didn't really necessarily see a problem with that.
So many questions. One is, you mentioned the revolving door. Juvenile Judge Tarek Sugarman was on the show in the last couple of weeks. He said that he had met with you, he had heard your concerns about the revolving door, and that juvenile detention center was no longer a revolving door. Is that in line with what you just said?
No, not at all. We just see these things differently, I think. What I see is them detaining 30 to 35 juveniles at any one time, and we see the level of violent crime and crime going on, and the lack of detention more than 30 to 35. That's a real challenge, and I know they can't detain every juvenile, but this is where, and this is not his fault, but the juvenile court is completely underfunded. You have about 500 juveniles a year who commit violent crimes, 2,000 who commit felonies. So that's a lot of juveniles. So you can't detain them all, but you need to intervene with all of them. And he has so few, I think they call them probation officers, that these kids are only checking in, you know, once a month or once every 2 weeks. They need somebody to call. And I gave you an example when these kids are out late at night and breaking into cars. Nobody's calling the family the next day and say, why is Junior out there at 2 o'clock in the morning? He's 14 years old. Who's he hanging out to? What do we need to do? It's 30 days, 45 days before they even get to court. They need a dramatic increase in their budget, and the county commission, you know, I guess I'm pleading with them, put more money there so that they can intervene with more. Now, we have asked for a $6 million grant from the state in a partnership with Youth Villages to provide intense intervention to some number of juveniles, but it's not going to be all that 2,500 that need it.
You mentioned out late at night. Where do things stand with this juvenile curfew? It was announced, it was pulled back, there was confusion. What is the curfew? Is there going to be a curfew? Is it going to start downtown, and how will it be implemented?
There already is a curfew. It's just not enforceable. Okay. The problem with it, the challenge that city government has always had since I've been involved in enforcing the curfew, we have no place to take the juveniles. You know, let's say you're 14 years old and you're out and police stop you and pick you up. Juvenile court will not take you. So what does the police officer have to do? The police officer ends up having to call parents, and sometimes it's hard to track down parents, and it basically takes that officer offline from patrol, could be for hours. So it's just a real challenge. The city government doesn't have detention facilities. So we said on a pilot basis, the downtown colonel said, we'll see if we can do it. And one reason was we just want to start in one area is we haven't done this. We have not detained children for their parents to come pick up. So we don't know if it'll be 5 children, 10 children, 50 children, how many we can handle, how the operation will go. But we will enforce the curfew sometime, this spring or summer on a pilot basis to see how it goes.
And you're going to use, is it Greenlaw Community Center?
Well, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
I heard that or the downtown police precinct.
And it'll be staffed by who? I mean, because there's a certain, and will it be a jail or will it be
No,
like
it's not a jail.
library where you sit over there at that table? I mean,
I don't know. And see, those are all the things we have to work out. It would be so much easier if juvenile court would take the children, which I think happened years ago. And that's the number one challenge with enforcing a curfew citywide. We have no place to take the children.
And then, so piloting sometime this spring, this summer, using one of these 2 facilities, not sure who they're going to staff it. What will the MPD would be doing the enforcement in sense of, hey, looks like that's a kid, check ID. How are they going to pull over, pick up every juvenile they see? Is it juveniles who might be causing trouble? I mean, what is the criteria for picking up a juvenile?
I think a lot of that's left to the discretion of the police officer, just like everything. They don't pull over every speeder, it's left to their discretion. Again, the big determining factor is how many juveniles can we keep at one time. That's going to drive all these other decisions.
So if you could keep a lot, you would just pick up it's almost like carding, at a liquor store, at a restaurant, if you're buying booze. I mean, you card everybody or you just selectively card. But if you had the space, if someone, you would want your police officers, if that kid looks like a kid, err on the side of picking them up and taking them in.
That would be my preference because it is not safe for a 14-year-old to be out at midnight. I mean, I've heard coach after coach always say, nothing good happens after midnight. And if you're 14, 15 years old, that's absolutely 100% true. It is not safe for those 15-year-olds to be out there.
Back to Bill, 10 minutes.
So in the beginning, if the number of kids rounded up for this, because we do have a problem with this, if the number of children rounded up is large enough, don't you then have to divert more police to watch Greenlaw or the police precinct wherever they are?
That's a really good point, and those are the things we've got to work out. Again, we're not in the business of detention. The county is, but the county won't do this service for us.
Well, and the other thing I'm wondering about is state laws, because as you know, the assessment center that the county worked on, which was where you would have juveniles and their families report after they were stopped. One of the hang-ups in implementing that was the requirement that if the police transport them, they have to be handcuffed. And so that resulted in a conflict with the folks who were going to run the assessment center independent of juvenile court as well. So are there some state laws that are involved in this?
Well, that's a really good point. We are investigating that because I also wanted to know, if a church volunteered and said, hey, we'll open up our gym and you could bring all the juveniles there and we'll wait till the parents come pick them up. Could we do that? I'm not sure legally we could transfer these children, even if it's the best, most well-resourced nonprofit church there is. Do we have the legal authority to do that? I question whether we do, but all that kind of stuff is being researched. Again, these are challenges because we're not in the business of detention, and the county is, but the county will not do it.
The early draft of this mentioned things about if kids are dancing or doing any number of activities that in and of themselves are not illegal, that they would be rounded up. Where did the draft of that come from?
I don't know. I've never seen it. I didn't know about it till it was reported, and that is not part of the plan at all.
Last question on this. I mean, we have a bunch, but obviously a lot of details haven't been sorted out. How long might these kids stay? What if their parents don't come get them?
I don't see. That's another thing we've got to work out. That's one of the big challenges that we have right now. We have, because a police officer has to maintain that kid for hours, And so those are all really good questions and challenges, which is why it has to be done just on a small basis at first.
Related to the question of the stops and as Bill was asking about these ordinance City Council has passed, some of that came out of obviously the Tyree Nichols tragedy, the killing of Tyree Nichols that's going to court and all that. Is this balancing act that Memphis has, that every city in America has, of what some people call pretextual stops? I'm going to stop someone because they've got a broken taillight, and that gives me pretext to see if there's drugs in the car, something worse in the car. People accuse Scorpion, the MPD unit, of doing a lot of pretextual stops, roughing people up, and it obviously culminating in the killing, the beating to death of Tyree Nichols. Do you look to other cities and say, this city or this police department has done it right in terms of dealing with what seem like small traffic offenses, but some police will say, well, but that can give us entree into bigger problems?
Well, the answer to your question is no, I haven't researched that, but I do know that every city, every law enforcement office do these stops, every one of them, because they do lead to people who have arrest warrants out on them or illegal activities, and if not, then you let it go. So every law enforcement does those, and not doing it is a challenge on trying to reduce crime. So it is a balance. You use the word balancing act. It is a balancing act.
We've got just 3 minutes left. We could ask a bunch more issues on crime, which we might do on the podcast version here. But I want to switch gears. We're just because we've got 3 minutes left. We're about to go into Memphis in May. Tom Lee Park, you helped force the parties at Memphis in May and Memphis River Parks Partnership that controls the park into mediation. Are you confident this is going to go well? You know, Memphis in May was concerned. They said they couldn't have as many barbecue teams in the park. Others said, well, wait, all that was negotiated down to the square foot. There was plenty of room for the same amount of teams. Are you nervous about how this is going to go?
No, I'm not nervous. I'm hopeful that it's going to go well. We do have people hired to make sure the load in and load out goes well, that hopefully nothing is damaged. People will have a good time. I always promised that Memphis in May would be in the park in May of 23, and they are going to be, and I hope everyone has a great time. The thing I'd be worried about is it looks like it's going to rain again this weekend.
Yeah. Well, Bill.
It always does. Councilman Warren has an ordinance that he is crafting at this moment to, in effect, pass an ordinance that says there are some gun limits in the city of Memphis, contrary to what state law says. Are you involved in that?
No. I do think it's extraordinarily well-meaning, but it's also meaningless.
Because state law is going to trump it.
Yeah. Well, there's specifically a state law that says local government can't regulate guns. What we're focused on is trying to support the governor's special called session and supporting that bill.
Okay. You got arena. The city got a great deal of money for arena and stadium funding, some hundreds of millions of dollars. Obviously, you'd push for that. You're happy with that. What comes next?
It's a really good question. We're meeting with all the teams to try to nail down the allocation. I'm meeting with hopefully Mayor Harris next week to kind of go over it with him. Then I got to talk to council. We've got to get a lot done in a short amount of time, because by the time I leave office on December 31st, I want all the deals inked and the construction projects bid, so that the football and soccer can start in January, and basketball can FedEx Forum start after about a year from now.
Yeah. And how much money, give or take, does the city have to come up with?
Well, it's roughly a $700 million total ask, and locally we're supposed to be half, which is what these funding mechanisms do, which is like the car rental tax and the sales taxes generated at the FedEx.
Not
Forum.
property tax.
No.
Yeah. Last one, we had your former COO, Chief Administrative Officer, Chief Operating Officer, Doug McGowan on the show in January, new to the job at MLGW. A lot going on there, but when you look back at the TVA decision to renew the contract, do you think that now that you have new leadership in MLGW, is it something to come back to, whether that question of staying with TVA?
Well, first, I trust his decision 100%. So I'd support his decision. Two, our consultant clearly showed that there were mistakes made in the original RFP process. But the biggest downside was it was just bad timing because it was during the pandemic and the extraordinary cost increases that occurred that really tilted it. And I talked to Elaine this week, and she said that it's still not the right time to rebuild.
The consultant.
Yeah, our consultant from Atlanta. She said still not the right time to, but there will be a right time. It's probably not going to be while I'm mayor, but we need the markets to calm down.
So many more questions. What can I get in? Well, our roads. You talked about roads from the beginning. Are the roads better 7.5 years later?
There's no doubt they are.
Yeah.
We literally have doubled the budget on roads. The problem is we're 330 square miles large. We're one of the largest cities in the country, not counting consolidated governments. And there was a huge backlog, and that's why people don't feel it.
Is the state doing its part on the state roads that are in the city?
I wish they'd do more.
Okay. Thank you. We'll get you back before you're out of office in December. Bill, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. That is all the time we have tonight. If you missed any of the show, you can get online as a podcast or you can go to WKNO.org. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next week.